Hi there. Welcome to another InSTEM interview. In today's interview, I'm going to be chatting to Nathan Ruttley. Nathan is an electronics engineer and the co-founder of a company named Embedism. In this interview, I will be chatting to Nathan about his experience as a young founder, the work he does through Embedism, and more. If you're a young person looking to take your idea to the next level and interested in learning about the practical steps and resources you can engage, then this interview is for you. I hope you enjoy watching. Thank you. Welcome to InSTEM, Nathan. Thank you for coming along to share your experience as a co-founder. I'm really excited to chat to you. First things first, I'm going to ask you an icebreaker question to ease you into the interview process. And my icebreaker question for you is, what incredibly common thing have you never done?
What incredibly common thing have I never done?
Yeah.
I have never seen any of the Star Wars films. Not a single one.
Interesting. You're not the only one, because I haven't seen them.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen them. I haven't seen any of them either. Okay, cool. So do you plan to watch them at some point in the future, or you just generally...
I feel like I've lived them through my friends recounting parts of it, but I think it's uncommon for an engineer to not have seen Star Wars. So typically, that's the kind of film that stereotypically engineers would want to watch.
Yeah, so we need to do better, basically, because we're both engineers.
I think so.
Awesome. So a little bit about you. You're an electronics engineer. You studied at Southampton University and you graduated a few years ago. I want to hazard a guess that engineering was something that you were always passionate about, but perhaps you can tell me how you stumbled, or, what led you into studying engineering at university.
Sure. I think probably quite a typical journey to becoming interested in engineering. So the standard thing of being young and really interested in things like Lego and Connects, and not just following the instructions and building something a little bit different. And then as you get a bit older, you get some better Christmas presents, and maybe the Lego Mindstorms, which has a bit of programming and stuff like that into it. And then just sort of building upon that. And I think always really interested in taking things apart, especially when I was younger, and not necessarily knowing how to put them back together, and then getting in a bit of trouble with my parents for that. So maybe the interest came from not wanting to get told off all the time for taking the TV remote apart and putting that back together. So I think that's probably where the initial seed interest in engineering came about. And then at secondary school, I was lucky enough to study electronics as an A-level. Which is quite unusual. I don't think many places offer that, but our school offered it as an A-level, and that's where I really fell in love with electronics in particular. And I think when you're younger, you're interested in the whole breadth of engineering. It's so varied. But then sitting in the lab and making circuits on a breadboard and writing a bit of code for a PIC microcontroller, and just making some LEDs flash on and off, and a little traffic light system or something like that. That's the moment I really knew I was like, okay, I want to continue my career in this particular subject area.
Awesome. Yeah, I did get a strong indication that you were that kid that enjoyed taking things apart and rebuilding it. I think it's because of what I've read about with respect to your company and what you do. So I'm glad that you verified that. And the electronics subject, so did you do a standard A-level or BTEC? Because I also... it's the first time I'm learning that electronics, or could be an A-level subject. So
yeah, it's a specific A-level subject. I think I might have taken a GCSE in it as well. I can't quite remember that far back, but yeah, I think the only prerequisites were that you were interested in maths and physics, and where you go. And it was really good, actually. It set me up really well for my degree, because I already had some hands-on experience, knowing how to use a soldering iron, knowing how a breadboard works, basic understanding of, the type of chips that are available to achieve a specific goal. And I think that really helped, especially my first year of my degree, coming in with that really strong foundation knowledge of what's out there and what's actually possible in terms of electric circuits.
Interesting. So you, as I mentioned earlier, you graduated from Southampton University. You then pursued a graduate career with an electronics firm or electronics-based firm called RPD International.
Yeah.
But then after a short stint there, you ventured out to start your own business. So you've co-founded a company named Embedism, which creates prototypes for different, markets and sectors. Perhaps you can tell me a little bit more about that. What inspired you? At what point did you realize that you had an idea worth, venturing out for? And what distinguishes Embedism?
So a bit about the sort of journey to getting here. So RPD was my graduate job, as you said, and I actually did a couple of internships there whilst I was studying, which was fantastic. So they're more of like a whole product design agency. So they would build the whole product, including the mechanical aspects of it. And obviously my role there as an electronic engineer was to focus on the electronic stuff. So yeah, after graduating, I spent maybe a year, maybe 2 years there. And I think the projects that I enjoyed working on the most were when people came in with the core of their idea was worked out and they wanted to just get to that next stage before they go off and raise loads of money. So I had the idea with my business partner that we could start a company focusing on specifically that. So the idea is that somebody comes either with just their idea on paper, or maybe they've used an Arduino or something like that, and they have a box of wires and they come and deliver it to us and they say, now can you make me my MVP so that I can go out to raise more funding, to validate my idea, to prove it in the market. So we thought, okay, we know a few people who've got ideas that are at that technology readiness level. So hopefully there's a market for it. I have to admit, we didn't do tons of research into the market size before deciding to quit our jobs and start our own business. But we're here 3 years later. So I think that validates it enough that there are enough people out there in the UK with really cool ideas that just need that little bit of help to get it off the ground. And I think that's what sets us aside from some of the other engineering companies, is that they have very heavy process, or they might offer the full suite. So, like my previous employer, they offer the full suite, including the mechanical design and the industrial design. Whereas we said, no, we'll just focus on electronics and firmware alone. So that means that we can offer a lower cost service. We're working within our own core competencies. And it means that we provide really good value. We do the projects quickly, do them really well. And that's where we saw that little gap in the market for just helping people get their idea off the ground.
Sounds very interesting. So for an electronics novice like myself, what does firmware mean?
So firmware is like software, but it's on a piece of hardware. So it's embedded software. So instead of writing it in a high level language and running it on a PC or a Mac or a Linux machine, you are writing it to run on a little chip that's this big. And it means you're operating with tighter constraints. So you can't have a gigabyte file downloading onto the chip to run the firmware. You're operating with kilobytes of memory and stuff like that, and you have to consider a bit more how all the different aspects of the system interact with each other. So it's very different to software. There's a lot of similarities in terms of thinking about it from a hierarchical point of view, but the actual implementation side is very different. It's a slightly different skill set. So that's in a nutshell what firmware is.
Interesting. So would you say that your ability to be able to develop these solutions for this client is largely dependent on your degree, as well as perhaps the experience that you had prior to starting Embedism?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is the degree has given me a really solid technical foundation, which you can then be creative on top of that. So I think if you have a really exciting idea, or you've thought about how to solve a problem for a client in a interesting and novel way, you need to be able to back that up with some good, academic style investigations and planning and structure. And that's where the degree really lends itself well, is to that technical implementation side of things. And I think having worked in a product design company before and being surrounded with these really amazing creative brains, that's where the sort of engineering problem solving becomes more interesting is that you're coming up with creative solutions and then leveraging on your academic studies to come up with the technical implementation for that.
Very interesting. So just to summarize the value and the solution the Embedism offers, you are helping people, say, conceptualize, imagine their ideas, create that first initial product for them to be able to secure more funding and hopefully get their products market. So you are a young founder. You know, I've established at the beginning of the interview that you only graduated a few years ago. Lead something like this, it requires a lot of strength, resilience, you know, enthusiasm, everything, you know, you name it, right? What are some of the things that you found useful in taking Embedism to where it is today? So perhaps you can share some of the resources that you've used or even funding that you've been able to, you know, utilize to turn, you know, it from an idea to reality.
Yeah, I think the main thing that you really need is that enthusiasm, which you mentioned, because we wanted to bootstrap the whole business, so we didn't take out any loans, we didn't get any funding, we just self-funded with a couple of £1,000s each to get our initial equipment and stuff like that. So we've never had a big cash injection, never had to speak to a bank about a loan, anything like that. And both myself and my business partner really wanted to retain whole ownership of the business and never have to feel like we were subject to paying someone else loads of money. So that comes with its challenges, because that means you basically have to start in a bedroom. You don't have the money to get a premises. You have to just make do with what you've got. So we started there. So we had really low overheads, which we've managed to maintain until this day. So low overheads, and that gives you runway to use that initial self-funded cash injection to, you know, do a bit of buying equipment, buying components, buying things like that, and to allow you to deliver the first project. So after that, we then upgraded to a garage, which I did a talk the other day, and I made a joke that a lot of these massive tech companies are starting in a garage. So maybe that's an important part of our journey. So we started there, and then that gave us more space, so we could invest in more equipment. It meant that we could actually work together in the same room, because before that we were working in our own homes. So then, yeah, we could work together in the same room. So that builds a bit of energy. And then now we've upgraded to a rented premises in Brixton, which is much bigger. It's given us even more space. And that's hopefully what's going to allow us to grow. But besides from that initial sort of enthusiasm and a bit of self-funding money, the main thing I think that you need to start your own business is to really leverage your network. So I did a lot of asking people twice my age for advice, who maybe they started a business later in life, or they'd worked in a consultancy before and they knew about different business models and the kinds of clients you might attract. And that was invaluable. So speaking to people, I mean, so for example, my dad runs a small business. So I'd speak to him about the logistics of how do you even register a company? Where do you go? Who do you speak to? What forms you need to fill in? And then speaking to an accountant and working out, okay, cool. How much can we pay ourselves? Can we even pay ourselves? What's a share structure? All this kind of stuff. And it's amazing how, if you're starting something for yourself and it's a small team, there's just two of us, it's amazing how many people you can find around you who are willing to give you a lot of their time for free so that you can start something. And they don't want anything in return. Just, you know, maybe go out to the pub and grab a couple of beers or buy them a nice meal or something to say thanks. But people really want to help. So if someone's thinking about doing this for themselves, speak to as many people as possible, because no doubt people have made their own mistakes and their own journeys, and they want to educate you about that so that you don't make the same mistakes. And it just helps you take that extra little baby step forward every single time. And I think, yeah, leveraging your network is the biggest thing that sort of, yeah, helped us succeed in making this business.
Very impressive. I think it's super impressive that you are, you know, you self-funded and, you know, you've been able to get to where you are today. I think it's a testament to your resourcefulness. And my other takeaway from your answer is leveraging your network. And I think we live in an era where it's a lot easier to connect with people. So I wouldn't even bother asking you, what networks you use. I think it's pretty obvious how you can reach people. Excellent. So you did mention, obviously, one of the challenge is, for example, starting small, like, working in different places. Obviously, that is also part of the journey. Are there any other challenges that you've encountered in your experience so far, and how you overcome them?
I think the two main challenges were both to do with space. So the physical space is a massive challenge. If you're building hardware, it takes up space. It's not like software or writing websites where you can just use your laptop and sit in a cafe or on your sofa. You need space, you need a workbench, you need tools. They're often big, soldering irons, they're hot and they smell. So you need that space to move around in and to be creative and to make sure you're not just piling stuff on top of itself and creating loads of mess. So that was a really big challenge, and we're still battling with that slightly. We've got loads of space now, and now we need to fill the space. So we're now at the other side where we had no space and we had too much stuff, and now we've got lots of space and we need people and other people around us to fill it and to help us, work with more clients and deliver more projects. And then the other side of the space, I think, is headspace. So if you're going it alone, or you're going it in a partnership, or even maybe you've got 4 people, you not only have to deal with your existing life struggles and all the things that come with that, like paying your rent, paying your bills, making sure you can eat. You also have to worry about, okay, now I've got to support emotionally and financially some other people. You're in it together now, and you're doing it for someone else as well. And it adds a little bit of a small amount of stress, I think, because you think, if I fail, not only have I let myself down, but I'm also letting everyone else down in the team around me. So making sure that you've got the mental headspace to deal with that, and good ways of coping with that increased stress. That was a really big challenge. And I think those stresses never go away. They just change into something else. So, okay, we have clients now and we have some money in the bank, but now we have rent to pay. So now we need more clients, and building that up and dealing with the cash flow and all that kind of stuff. It's a business stress rather than the stress of the aspiration of having the business. So now we're running. Now we have to think about how to keep this going, how to grow it, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that they're the two main challenges, is the physical space and the headspace to deal with not only the work itself, but also the challenges that the work brings with it.
It's interesting. So you've already mentioned a few things that other, prospective founders can do to develop their ideas. I'd really like you to send a key message to anyone watching this, anyone who wishes to take their idea to the next level. What would be your biggest, advice or tip for them?
Yeah, I think the biggest or the best piece of advice I can give is, don't be embarrassed to ask people exactly what they think about your idea. And don't just ask your mum, who's obviously, or I hope, would support you. You need to ask people who you think will really challenge you and ask you difficult questions. Why are you even doing it? Or where are you going to get the money from? Or where are your clients going to come from? How long is it going to take you to deliver your business idea or your project? You need to find people who are going to really challenge you and make you think all these things through. And then once you've thought those things through, then you can take the leap and do it, because you've already started to solutionize in your head how you're going to deal with these challenges. So yeah, ask people what they think before you take the plunge.
That's a great advice. My final question for you is, what is next for you?
Yeah, I wish I knew.
Okay, should I ask what is next for Embedism? Is that what to answer?
Well, I guess we're one and the same. There's 2 of us still, and we have some really great contractors who help us out with their specific subject areas. But really, what's next is we want to grow the business, not too much and not too aggressively. Within the next year, hopefully we can hire maybe 2 people tops and just increase our product offering. So bring in a bit of the design and the mechanical knowledge, because that will help us to build prototypes for people, and we can do small production runs here of products. And yeah, really, I think that's the goal, is to just bring a bit more skills in-house, increase the product offering slightly, and then hopefully we can work on more of all the projects we worked on are really exciting, but hopefully we get even more exciting projects through, because we'll be able to offer just a little bit extra on the side. Apart from just the electronics, we'll also have a bit of design, a bit of mechanical, a bit of assembly, those kind of things. So that's where we really want to take the business next. But
so excited. Sounds super
it's a challenge, though. It's a challenge.
I can imagine, yeah. No, that sounds really exciting. Thank you very much for making time to come here. I think it's absolutely incredible that you've been able to start this, self-funded, and taking it to where it is today. I have no doubt that you're going to go far with Embedism, and hopefully we'll get to bring you back here to have another chat with you.
Hopefully we'll have a big team here next time to have a chat, which would be great.
So,
Thanks.